Good Friday morning. It is about 13 minutes before the start of our presentation. This is Marc Czarnecki. I am here to present the topic of Google productivity. We're still about 12 minutes out before the live stream event. My name is Marc again, M-A-R-C. I'm a member of the Asheville 50 Plus Works Experienced Workforce Initiative with NC Works, AB Tech, the Mountain Area Workforce Development Team. We're promoting employment, job opportunities, volunteer opportunities, stipend opportunities here in Western North Carolina for the 50 plus worker. I happen to be an individual that works with the leadership team of the Western North Carolina Broadband Project. I am also an AB Tech adjunct instructor, and that's partly why I am doing this presentation today. This presentation today is on Google, and at the Asheville Buncombe Technical Community College, I teach numerous Google classes, including the productivity suite. So we will be starting in about 11 minutes on the topic of Google and productivity and how you can organize yourself better for the job search market, being prepared. If I flash over here to the virtual Western North Carolina Career Expo opening page, you know, in any community, pre-COVID or post-COVID, people are walking around on smartphones. Mobile devices are important for that connectivity, the communication, including what we'll learn today in regards to productivity for job search, not only for the 50 plus worker, but for any age. I was participating in a meeting yesterday where they talked about it's estimated 25% of younger generation below the age of 21 also struggles with technology. So the digital divide is in America, and I'm very happy to be part of the Western North Carolina Broadband Team, the Experienced Workforce Initiative, where we're helping provide the 50 plus community some leadership on taking the step. So this is the second time I've supported the Western North Carolina Career Expo, the virtual event. This seems to be something that will likely continue just because of we do live more and more in a virtual world. I also am a member of the Osher Lifelong Learning Institute, where I have been privileged to participate in many lifelong learning opportunities. And there we go. So shortly we will be beginning the live cast on today, Friday, October 16th. I'm silencing my phone to make sure nothing comes up, and we will be going live in about 9 minutes here while we are live. I am recording this on a secondary tool. Technology is full of surprises, and those surprises are very much dependent on how the technology itself is managed. And in this case, Google made some changes the end of September, and I'm not able to do a live stream recording because I don't have the right G Suite package. So that's the way life is. But we live and learn, and that's part of the fun of being an experienced worker. You realize that you do become more attuned to learning opportunities, and practice definitely makes perfect. So here in Western North Carolina, broadband, the digital divide, the digital equity is a major issue. When COVID came around, we had the misfortune of not having sufficient Wi-Fi and broadband available for those that needed it, for stimulus checks, for income tax refund, for applying for jobs. It is important Housing, food is important. We can also talk about the accessibility of information is also critical in the world we live in right now. The world we live in is likely to be through a mobile phone, getting connectivity with that mobile phone. There are limitations to what you can do on the mobile phone. But with that being said, when we start talking about today's content on Google tools for job search productivity, again, the more you know about Google, the better you get. The awesome part about this presentation is even though it's on Google ecosystem, the Microsoft ecosystem is very, very similar. So if you prefer to work in the Microsoft world, you'll probably pick up some tips and tricks, but I'm going to focus on Google. And let's see here. We are looking at starting in about 7 minutes on the presentation. Hoping this is live stream, but I believe WebTechZar may have goofed and set up something that was no longer available at the end of September. So I'm going to try and record this, get this out to the world for the benefit of the experienced workforce. I am a technology individual, having worked for actually 3 Fortune 50 companies. I started off with a penny company and was privileged to work for them in the time when they were in the top Fortune 50 companies. Worked briefly for Pitney Bowes doing a mailing system change from mechanical meters to electronic meters, and now and then Lowe's corporate office. Lost my corporate job about 6 years ago, and I've kind of had to reinvent myself. WebTechZar was it, and I bought a domain. I've continued to build upon that knowledge and learn the Google ecosystem more and more. Google, the company itself, has continued to grow the tools and the cloud environment that we'll mention shortly. So I'm very excited. In about 5 minutes, we will be talking about the Experienced Workforce Initiative. So this recording, you're actually seeing a Google Meet recording. This was my intent, to be able to share with folks the Google Meet video conference tool through a live stream option. But I believe this recording will be necessary, hopefully, on a third-party tool that I'm doing. I'm working out of a co-working space. That co-working space provides the necessary broadband to do all of the things that I'm doing. Things being, I am downloading information from the Google Cloud. I'm uploading, in this case, the video stream, and I'm changing between multiple tabs in my Google Chrome. So in about 4 minutes, we'll be starting with the presentation. I'm just giving you a prelude and an introduction to Marc, myself. Let's see if Google Meet can say and spell my last name correctly. Marc, M-A-R-C, Czarnecki. Well, that's not too bad. C-Z-A-R-N-E-C-K-I. So we will be starting in about 4 minutes with a presentation on Google productivity. We have about an hour, which is a lot of time, but the topic of Google and the individual apps are worthy of taking classes or hiring an individual to help you specifically with your individual needs. I say that just because we live in a world where it's some folks work off of Apple, some folks work off of Microsoft, some work off of a Google Chromebook. The good news is all 3 of those have the availability of a Chrome web browser. That Chrome web browser is owned by Google, and with Chrome you'll have the ability to connect to the tools that we will be talking about here shortly. We're at 8:57. In 3 minutes we will resume or begin, I should say, the topic of Google productivity for helping you in your job search world. What else here do we have? Hope you've had success with today's virtual Western and North Carolina Career Expo. There are a lot of wonderful employment opportunities here. And on the main floor, I want to just quickly revisit the companies that are represented here. We're very happy that there are job openings, job opportunities for folks. I am volunteering for the Employment and Training Services, the Asheville 50 Plus. I am an adjunct for AB Tech, so I'm glad to see them here. The Mountain Area Workforce Development Board is also a sponsor, and Blue Ridge Community College, they're here. Very happy to have their engagement. I've done some classes with them for the Small Business Center down there. Fantastic program. I work with Landesky on several things, including the Buncombe Aging Consortium Alliance, BASA, Buncombe Aging Services Alliance. There we go, BASA. I see Mountain Area Careers is here, NC Works. I worked with Irene and Rodney and Ellen when she was there, so super excited about the diversity of folks. We are less than 1 minute away from beginning the presentation, so I am going to go into full screen mode for my presentation. I absolutely love the closed captioning feature, which I'm going to put on here, and I like the functionality of using a pointer with the Google Slide tool itself. So we are almost at that magic moment. Oh, there we go, 9 a.m. folks. So I am going to start today's presentation. You've already had an introduction on myself. We're here to learn a little bit more about Google tools for job search productivity. I'm going to go ahead and put on my Google cap right now. How's that? Does that help? So very, very true. The more you know about Google, the better you get. And I'll be the first to tell you, every day is a Google learning experience. When I look for information out there, I Google it. So I do use a tablet. I have, a laptop. I have a Chromebook, is one of my favorites. It's very secure, very light. It depends on the internet connectivity to be productive and have files, but I also have a mobile phone, and that mobile phone is necessary for the mobility. So this presentation will be focusing on the desktop environment, that desktop environment being a laptop, or maybe you have a machine at home that literally sits on your desk. So the problem is that we really do have a digital divide in Western North Carolina, and the digital divide is partly maybe education, maybe not being able to afford the internet connectivity or the ability to open a laptop or a desktop and work online, or even to have a mobile phone for even the data services that are provided to do a hotspot. So I'm super excited about the Google ecosystem, and when we go through this, as a representative of the Meet the Geeks team here in Western North Carolina, we continue to see technology as a growing opportunity. Specifically here, I see some wonderful tools to help you be more productive in the online job search world. So in everything we do nowadays, we need keys. You need keys to get into your home, keys to get into your car, keys to get into a locker, keys to get into all kinds of things. Well, the same is true for the online world. A email address is necessary to have a unique identifier, and then your password is also a secondary important portion. So when we work on the Google ecosystem works best if we use the Chrome web browser and a Google account. A Google account is simply a Gmail address, an email address that is the key to everything. Many people that I work with also need assistance in password management, a password management strategy. So that's a separate opportunity that I hope we can talk about one day. Having the mobility and accessibility and securely storing passwords on an independent resource like LastPass is what I do. So your Google account, again, the more you know about it, the better you get. When we go through this presentation, I am going to be referencing the GCF Global, Goodwill Community Foundation, and I'm just going to kind of quickly run through this. I am by no means going to spend all the time reading this, but I want you to understand that GCF Global has a wonderful piece on multiple sections on the Google ecosystem. This opening portion here, by the way, Goodwill Community Foundation is out of Raleigh, North Carolina, so I'm very proud and happy to be supporting another Google entity. So when we talk about Google and the productivity, Google Docs is something that competes against Microsoft Word. It allows you to create documents. Documents could be a spreadsheet, Google Sheets, or to do presentation, Google Slides. Google Plus isn't around anymore. It was Google's attempt to do social media, so just skip that portion. When you're in the job search world, you need to plan your time, schedule your time. We'll talk briefly about the Google Calendar. Certainly, Gmail is the necessary tool to communicate. I understand many employment resources are texting, but Gmail and email is still a necessary portion. So we'll talk about how Google Gmail does a wonderful job in filtering messages. Certainly keeping track of contacts is very important. Having the app available on your mobile phone. If you have an Android phone, you're likely to have Gmail on there. If you have an iOS Apple phone, you'll likely have to download the Gmail app and connect your email address, that logical key. I learn a lot from YouTube, watching and sharing videos, creating playlists, uploading my own videos. I do multiple websites using the Google Blogger tool. The payment system through Google is Google Wallet. And even though if you have an Apple device, you can still use the apps from the Google ecosystem, very similar to the Android, to stay in touch, enjoy the different apps, stay connected. So with that, pretty much today we're going to be talking about Docs, the Drive, Maps, Sheets, Slides, Tips, time permitting. I'm not going to go through and do the exercises. I want you to have the opportunity of using the GCF Global as your homework assignment. So if you don't have a Google account, you can go to www.google.com, locate the sign-in button, the blue sign-in button, create an account. It will ask you for your name and to choose an email, and it will validate to see if it's available. If it's not available, just add some numbers on there. In the job search world, you do want to have a nice clean looking email, preferably first name, last name, and unique numbers to have a unique Gmail address. You'll go through some validation. You do want to make sure you remember your password. Your password should be unique and strong and kept somewhere for reference. So the GCF Global tool has some wonderful videos. We're not going to watch these videos. I'm just going to continue to talk about a general outline of my favorite functions with the Google ecosystem. One of the reasons I like and encourage Google is slightly better than others when it comes to privacy and security. That privacy and security is important, and there is a wonderful tool if you're established in the Google ecosystem. Do occasionally visit your privacy settings, and there might be some things that might surprise you. That, oops, I don't want that Google tool anymore. I need to disable it, or maybe your Google account was assigned to a separate device. You want to make sure you disable or remove it through the Google security checkup. Google also helps you with some web history controls and understanding that. The Google dashboard, for me personally, I actually have probably 8 or 9 at least Gmail addresses, or G Suite, or Google Space is the new tool. So a very good tool for multiple things. So if you happen to go to the library or to NC Works to sign into a computer, you want to make sure that when you sign in, you understand how to sign out as part of your security. There are some instructions here on GCF Global and talking about how to do that. So we will continue. Let's see here. Let's hit escape and get back to my presentation. That was the Google account. So now we're going to move forward to Gmail. Gmail is Google's email tool. It is productivity necessary for job communication. And again, the more you know about Gmail, the better you get. So when I click on this link, we're going to go to Gmail, and I'm just going to skim through this and give you a highlight. Very specifically, Gmail is a free email service provided by Google. It is your logical key for accessing. The features I like, when I'm out job searching, I have to share my email with many folks, and in fact, I have a separate email that I use primarily for job search. It is Marc Czarnecki@gmail.com. I like Gmail because it does a very good job in filtering spam for me, and I'm hoping not to step into the malicious world of hackers and malware and such. And Gmail resides in the cloud, and those cloud servers have optimized technology in the security. There are different views that you can customize. You can do chat with instant message in there. I use the Google Voice tool as a secondary backup phone number, hoping that I'll never lose my cell phone, but as a backup, I know I have a Google Voice number available. This is the interface of the typical Gmail world. The GCF Global tool has an interactive piece where you can look at the different areas of the Gmail window. I'm assuming you've already set up your Gmail account, so I'm going to scroll down and assume that you're signing in. If you're new to Gmail, there are again a customization of settings that you can do. That customization is done from your Gmail, the gear icon, and from there you can select, in this case, settings, and they're showing you categories that you can set up. From my Gmail, I will add contacts. Adding contacts is very simple. To click on what I call the tic-tac-toe board, the Google Apps. When your mouse hovers over that, you will have the description appear. When that opens, if you find the blue circle, contacts, that will open a new tab, and in that new tab, you can add and maintain your contacts. If you have a mobile phone with the Gmail address added to it, the contacts will be downloaded to that mobile device, including a tablet. If you have a job and you know a specific individual or know a specific email, it's very important to set up a contact entry in there. And what you're doing is giving a vote of confidence to Google that you know this Gmail, and the Gmail address or email address is something that you know and trust and need. By setting it up in contacts, you're helping to educate the spam filters that this isn't a spam message, and it is very, very important for you to read and review when it comes in. So, sending email, we want to be proficient. I'm not going to go through any of these videos, just in the sensitivity of time. We're already almost 15 minutes into the presentation, but I do want to call out that when you're composing an email and you're attaching a resume or a cover sheet or references, that you understand how to do that. Again, personally, I have multiple Google accounts. If you have a separate Gmail for your job search, make sure you set a signature. The signature not only with your name, but your phone number. If you're sending email to apply for a job or an HR manager, addressing the email, if that individual's in your contact list, that it appears very easily when you want to insert the recipients by just typing one or two letters. Google Gmail goes to your contacts and will add it. You don't want to send a whole lot of email addresses in there. Email is too heavily used nowadays. You may need to use a carbon copy or a blind carbon copy if appropriate. GCF Global talks about how to do that in this particular video. Very important, if you're attaching a resume as a PDF or a Google Doc, you will click the plus and you will add that document as an attachment. You could link it through Google Drive, and we'll briefly mention that, and then click send. Those are the functions available in the Gmail world. There are some formatting, nice formatting, but keep it simple, short. The details should be discussed in person or on your virtual job event. So, scrolling down here, formatting. The use of bullets is kind of nice if you want to call out specific skills that you have. I've already mentioned adding a signature. How do you do that? You go to the Gmail gear settings and you scroll down. In this case, Elena has created a signature that will appear on every email with her name, the organization she represents, the phone number, and then a tagline. GCF Global provides some exercises where you can practice. It's really cool. So let's just hope you've sent that email and that email has gone out to the world. That hiring individual is reading your email and they say, oh yeah, this individual has some considerations, and maybe as a result I am going to the individual will reply to you and say, hey, we want to set up an interview. So you'll want to go into your Gmail. The bold will indicate it's an unread email. I'm not going to go into the options right now, but if you have an attachment, this is something that I commonly see with my students. An attachment could be a PDF, it could be a Microsoft Word document, it could be a Google Doc. You'll see this tablet-friendly, if you had a tablet with touchscreen, you could push on it and easily see a preview, but just by clicking on the file itself. If you wanted to save the attachment, you could download it to the local machine, or you could put it into your cloud drive and organize it by files and folders that we'll talk about here shortly. So that hiring manager, let's just say, has set up an interview. You want to be able to reply to the email. If you click reply, it's going to reply just to one individual. If there are multiple individuals that are part of the hiring process, you may have to click reply to all. Type in your response and send it away. The use of forwarding emails is, let's just say you want the assistance of an individual at NC Works. By forwarding the email, forwarding will also attach any attachments that are embedded in the email. You'll type to whom you're sending to, click the blue send button, and it goes on to that forwarded individual. Conversations are where an email goes back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And the important takeaway from me is that a conversation in Gmail is based off of the subject line. So if your subject line stays the same, the email is going to go back and forth as based off of what you send and how they reply. GCF Global talks about how they are stacked upon each other, and you can open each message individually, or you can click this little expanding a message button, and it will provide expanded view of all of your email. By any means, if you're going to be out of town for a day or more, you want to set up a vacation reply just in case a hiring manager contacts you. I wouldn't say I'm on vacation, but as a potential employee, I would say I'm not available at this time, but anticipate getting back to you the next day. And you can use the vacation function to provide that automation so that you have the professional courtesy to let the individual know that you're not there. Managing email is a bear in itself. Everybody talks about what are the tips when managing email with Gmail. Again, a wonderful video. I'm not going to do that now. This will be part of your homework. When I read an email, I will delete it. I am more likely not to delete it, but I am more likely to archive a message. Archiving a message just provides some productivity for me that in the future, if I ever want to pull it up, I can use the Gmail search and find that email. Whereas if I had deleted it after 30 days, that email content would be automatically deleted. In the Gmail interface, you have the ability to click individual emails on the opening screen where you can archive them or delete them. If you want to go so far as organizing with labels, there's a label functionality. If you want to group emails from XYZ company, you could create a label called XYZ. You can even color code it if you want. I try not to do this actually because Gmail has a wonderful search, and once you understand how to search keywords and the advanced search, the use of labels isn't as important, and it's one of the decisions I've made not to maintain and spend time with it. So there's how you change the label colors. I do that. Creating filters is a nice piece of functionality that if you want incoming mail to do certain functions can be based off of the sender, the recipient, the subject, or specific words. You can set up rules for that filter, and GCF Global talks about doing that. I mentioned earlier searching mail. This is what I love about Google. Google does a wonderful job in search, and the same is very true with Gmail. The functionality on top has a magnifying glass, and even as you're typing 3 characters, Google is making some suggestions based off of the search OLE in this case. So let's continue forward and talk about just briefly. I'm working on a desktop here, but the use of a Gmail app on an Android or iPhone is very, very important. It's just a matter of downloading the app, adding an account, and the software will go through a breadcrumb process on adding your Gmail address, may it be Android or iPhone. Oh, here's another wonderful tool that's available, I believe, in Microsoft. Excuse me. How to unsend an email in Gmail. So in your settings of your Gmail, you have the ability to go into the gearbox settings, and when you go to the general tab, there's a section called undo send. I believe the default is either 5 or 10 seconds. If I've created a new email account right away, what I like to do is to change this to 30 seconds. So that if I send a message and I'm like, oh no, I was a little too emotional or I said something wrong, I have up to 30 seconds to undo the sent message. Once a message is sent, I can click undo within 30 seconds and it returns back into the draft state. We're all looking for time-saving tips in the productivity world of job search. When you're reviewing email, right away from the opening screen, you can select all of them and take action. In this case, this individual has selected all of the emails in the primary, and they're going to either archive or delete the emails likely. There are some shortcuts available that if you do email that frequently, you can set up keyboard shortcuts. Creating groups is actually something that you can set up a group email in the contacts function. Okay, so I think that's given you a great introduction to email with Gmail. With that being said, let's continue forward with my next presentation, which is on using Google Calendar. So you're out there emailing back and forth, and you need to start scheduling your time for appointments or specific skills, getting clothing, preparing for the interview. Your calendar, your Google Calendar, is a wonderful productivity tool. If you have an Android device or an iPhone, you can also download the calendar functionality as well. For me, in the world of video conferencing, I find the Google Calendar priceless to ensure I know exactly which URL or web address to go to for a Zoom call or a Hangouts or a Microsoft Team meeting. And I do this through my Google Calendar. So I'll share with you, boom, real quick, my Google Calendar. My Google Calendar, you can see today I'm doing the Google Productivity live stream, and that I do have some obligations this afternoon. So it helps me to ensure that I am not duplicating obligations and don't have any conflicts. We've already mentioned you have interview opportunities. You want to start tracking, creating, in essence, an address book, an online address book. The cool part about putting your address and your contacts out into the Google ecosystem is that if you lose your laptop, lose your smartphone, you can go to another device, sign in with your email, the password, and you'll have access to it. So wonderful tool to keep up with. I am going to spend just a couple moments talking about Google Docs. The resume needs a text editor. Many of us think of Microsoft Word as a text editor, but Google Docs is for free. You don't have to pay that Microsoft 365 licensing, which I like. Google Docs is based off of the Google Drive. It's kind of like an online filing cabinet, and we're going to go into more of this in just a minute. So let's go back. Sorry about that. When I go to Google Drive, GCF Global has a broken link. So I'm just going to do a search, GCF Global, and we're going to start off with Google Docs. So, in order to understand Google Docs, you have to understand Google Drive a little bit. Google Drive is one of the most popular cloud services available today. It's popular because it provides a generous 15 gigs of storage, and it's not just your Google documents, but you can upload PDFs and other files and have it available on your cloud. So with that being said here, let's see. In this case, in Google Drive, you can also create documents for resumes, cover letters, reference sheets, use a spreadsheet to track mileage, as an example. Job hunting is considered a tax deduction, and one of the most expensive things you'll do is have to pay for transportation, and you can track that in a spreadsheet. If I believe I have adequate time for a presentation during the interview, I may make a Google slide presentation for a laptop, or even show a couple of key slides on my smartphone or tablet. We won't talk about forms and drawings too much right now, but let's continue forward with learning more about Google Drive. Again, GCF Global has a wonderful video about Google Drive. I'm not going to play it. It's part of your homework. You are required to sign in with Google Drive using your email address and your password. Once you're in, you will see likely the generic Google sign-in where you can go into Gmail, but in this case, they're hovering over the Google apps, and you'll see this triangular Google Drive, and you'll see your Google Drive interface, kind of like the organization of your filing cabinet. My filing cabinet is called My Drive. I have a folder in there called Budget Proposals, Worksheets. You have a wonderful search available in Google Drive. This is specific to this Gmail account, so if you have multiple Gmail addresses, make sure that you're signed into the correct one. You can click on the headers and sort them by name, by last modified. The sharing is an advanced function, which we won't talk about right now. But let's see. And then likewise, the cool part is, if you're working off of the desktop, you can also download in iOS and Android the Google Drive for mobile devices and have those documents available for view. If you're going to do an edit of a Google Doc, you would need to download the Google Docs app in addition to the Google Drive. So how do you create new files in Google Drive? It's literally a matter on the left-hand navigation. You'll click plus and you'll see, well, it's asking you in Google Drive, do you want to create a new folder, plus folder? Or do you want to upload from your computer a file? Do you want to upload a whole folder of files on your computer? In this case, the user is clicking Google Docs, the text editor. And when the text editor opens up, right away it looks like something like this. Almost all Google files will open up as untitled. So one of the first things you'll likely want to do is to title it something specific. For my job search reference, I like to put the year 2020, the month October 10, and then the specific date. So if I'm talking about today's date, I would enter 2020 10 the 16th, and maybe even include a time if I had multiple documents specific to a date and time. So the better you name your file, the easier it is to search. So if you create a file called quarterly report, you search for quarterly report, you will find it very easily. Google does offer templates for the use of resume and other templates. If you want to do something fancy, you don't need to go into the template gallery, but when you click plus, it will provide the availability for you to use a template for a doc sheets or slides accordingly. If you already have files on a computer, you can upload them. You can even do some synchronization, syncing. There's a download involved if it's specific to your workstation. For me, I work off of a Google Chromebook, and a Google Chromebook puts most of my files into my Google Drive. Some of the files can be stored locally, but I like to use the cloud drive accordingly. So even though you might be using a Google Doc for like a resume, you do have the ability to convert a file. For job hunting, I convert a text file into a PDF very commonly. As you're doing actions in Google, the Google Chrome web browser will open multiple tabs depending on what you have opened or told it to function. So be aware that every time you do something in the Google ecosystem, it will be opening a new tab. Managing your files, you have a filing cabinet, you have labels, you have files and folders. This is a wonderful tool. I like to create a folder for a company I'm going to apply jobs for, and in that folder I'll have a resume, I'll have the job description, I'll have references, all nice, neat, and available, so that if I do get an interview or get to move to second base, I can download, print it if necessary, or have it available online. And let's see, if it's not a Google document file and you open it, it will do something called give you a preview. So in this particular case, it looks like this document might have been a Microsoft Word document. Google will offer you to open it with Google Docs and convert it. It would create a different file name, another tab. There's some exercises you can do with GCF Global. So you have a resume, you want to download it and print it. How do you do that from Google Drive? So in this case, this is the Art Club interest letter. You can do a right-click download, and it will download it as a docx file, which is Microsoft Word. That's pretty ubiquitous. If you were to bring up a docx file, it would offer to convert it to the Google Docs. But downloading it, taking it off of the cloud, would put it to Google, to Microsoft Documents. So here they're showing a file. They're in the file, download as, right here. And they're downloading, in this case, the PDF. So very, very important. If you have a resume, the resume system needs a portable document format. You take your resume document, go to File, Download as, PDF, and you have created a portable document format where you can easily upload it to another system. If you need to print the resume or a cover letter, very similar. You go into File, Print. It opens up a printer preview and some printer settings that'll be specific to the type of printer you are using. In this case, it's an HP Color LaserJet. And you click the blue button. That preview is now printed to your available printer. So let's talk a little bit more about Google Docs and some of my tips for consideration in typing a resume. This is the interactive preview tool for Google Docs and GCF Global. This particular Google document title is called a thank you letter. We have some top navigation. We have some basic editing tools with a shortcut bar. We do have ability to set some tab ruler navigation, which is slightly advanced, so I wouldn't worry about that. If you need to condense your resume or cover letter to one page, it's very common that I go into File, Page Setup, and I would narrow the margins from 1 inch to, in this case, 3/4 of an inch left and right margin, with the hopes that I could make a 2-page document into a 1-page document. Don't want to do color too much for resumes and cover letters, so we'll skip over that. The text editing tools, wonderful video.
If you are
there.
familiar with word processing software like Microsoft,
Again, it's very similar to Microsoft Word. So if you learn Google Docs, you'll feel a comfort level in doing the functions with the Google Docs and Microsoft Word. In the name of time, I'm just going to scroll through this to the bottom. And formatting text, adding hyperlinks. For the online job world, I may create a hyperlink and include it to details of previous jobs, or if I want to showcase some of my online work. In this example, they're showcasing for rent the specific address. They're formatting the type, the font, making it bold, not bold, but larger font, a 24 font. And I'm going to scroll down to the section on hyperlinks. So this little quick shortcut key opens up a place where you highlight your text. Hit the hyperlink key, or the keyboard shortcut is Control-K. Type in the web address URL. This is the link. You click apply, and you can also test it before you send it to make sure it works. So GCF Global continues to move forward with some more advanced Google Docs topics. I'm not going to go over that right now. That'll be part of your homework. So you've had an introduction to Google Drive. Google Maps is something that I consider very, very important in providing some organization for me to anticipate where I'm going and how I'm going to get there, how long it takes to even see a preview. So in a web browser, if I just type in Google Maps, I'm doing a search on Google Maps, or I could type in the web bar itself, maps.google.com. It takes me to the same place. Here, if I have an interview, let's just say at Best Buy, it shows me the locations. I'm going to assume that my location is here on Tunnel Road. It gives me a image of what that store looks like, so I can kind of anticipate what to look for when I get there. If I need directions, I click directions. If I'm starting on 45 South French Broad Avenue and I'm going to Best Buy and I'm driving, I can see I need to allow approximately 7 to 10 minutes. It provides a map of how to get there, turn by turn. I can send that to my phone. I can anticipate leaving at a future date, which is more important than if I'm taking a bus. To know specifically what bus, how long it takes. So in this case, I would allow at least 30 minutes to take a bus to get to the particular location from the ART bus station. So, in the interest of time, there's a whole lot more out there. Google Slides, Google Hangouts, Google Forms, Classroom. Just depends on your level of skills and ability. I'm sorry, this is a webinar, so I don't have the availability right now to take any questions live. But if you so choose to contact me, I am Marc Czarnecki at WebTechZar. I'll put in my email address here. It's marcczarnecki@webtechzar.com. And then all of the tools and tips that I've provided to you are detailed, again, through the Goodwill Community Foundation, GCF Global. GCF Global does a wonderful job in maintaining contact, or rather the app information, and it has zero advertising, so I like that as a feature. It integrates well with Google YouTube to provide some more visuals for me. So I hope this particular presentation was helpful for you for the employment and training services from Asheville 50 Plus Works. Good luck on your employment and job opportunity world. And this is Mark signing off with his Google tips and tricks for the day. Thank you.